Welcome to Project Lifecycle and its classification course of PGDM program run by Manage Hyderabad. This particular course has been structured in the following way: objectives, project lifecycle and its phases, project audit, classification of projects. In this particular contents, when you go through it, we do hope you will be in a position to explain the concept of project lifecycle and its various phases. You will understand the concepts and key activities of the project audit. You will come to know about classifications of project with the help of different criteria, and you will be also able to explain the sub classification of project on the basis of risk. Now, the project life cycle and its phases. Project life cycle divides the sequence of operations of project into different phases. Why do we want to divide the sequence of operations? We want to divide the sequence of operations for effective planning on organizing the various inputs for execution of our project. It also helps us to identify the deviations and also helps us to take the final decisions whether to continue it or not to continue it. It has different phases. The four important phases are initiation phase, definition or planning phase, implementation phase and close up phase. Now, in this phase there are two important things we all have to keep it in mind, that is that efforts to be taken for implementation or to implement the stages of project. Maximum efforts are taken into account in the implementation phase, and there is an inverse relationship between the cost and the potential to add the values to it. It means when we are at the initial stage of our project, it might lead to less cost if we want to add some value to it. But if we are in the process of completion of the project and if you want to add some values in it, it will cost more. We can give an example. We are constructing a house. Just after plinth, if we are going to change the directions of the windows or the doors, it will cost less. But if we are in the phase of completion, if you want to change that directions, it will cost more. This idea generations concepts, this particular idea generation concepts come from certain need which is to be recognized for an action. This idea generation is nothing but recognition of our need for action, and this recognition comes from an example I can give you. We are going to purchase vegetables from the market and we know that it carries some residues in it, and residues might be in terms of insecticide, pesticides or herbicides, and that will create a problem. Now, we want to get rid of this. So, we have recognized that this is a problem and this is to be tackled effectively, and for that it has certain basic process. What are those process? The first, we have to write the document, that is the project document. It is a statement describing the characteristics of the project undertaken. Then comes project feasibility document. Now, it is an important one. Reason being, we all have to understand what do we mean by feasibility. It determines whether the project is practically and technologically applicable for our achieving the objectives, and it has 5 important common factors that can be said in the form of TELOS. TELOS. T stands for technological and technical. The technology which we are going to adopt and the technical persons who are going to deal that particular technology, is it possible to do that? Then comes E. E stands for economy. Does it give the benefits? And this we can get it by analyzing the cost and benefit relationship. Then stands for L. L stands for legal. The conflicts which might come up, that must be resolved with the legal means. Then comes O. O is operational. Is it possible us to do the things? Is it going to solve the problems? If it gives the answer, it is operational. Then comes the schedule. Schedule if it takes more time, it's a bad project. So within the time limit, we have to complete this project. Now this project feasibility document is having two criteria to judge. Those two criteria to judge the project feasibility is the cost requirement and the values to be attained. And these are the important elements which we all have to keep it in mind, that it has certain steps. What are those steps? The first step for this particular document is the problem description. There is a saying, problem well stated is half done. It means there should not be any ambiguity while writing the problem. Then approach to be used. The approach which we are going to use in this, on the basis of the recommendations or course of action to satisfy the requirement for our project. Then alternate generations for solving the problem. It is one of the important element for creativity, and this is to be understood in the form that while solving a problem, how many potential actions a system can imagine to solve that problem. Then comes preliminary recommendations. Now preliminary recommendations are going to answer whether to go for it or not to go for it, which one to select for our project implementation. Then comes project concept document. In this, there are certain questions are to be answered. What is to be done? How will it be done? Why is it to be done? And if this can be answered, our project concept document will be the final one. It leads to another important area, that is the project charter. Project charter is nothing but the statements related to the scope, objectives, partners are involved. But it is also one of the important element because it contains the terms and reference of project implementation. It also serves a beautiful focal point or a base point to continue our meetings and decides our every decisions on the basis of those terms and condition. Therefore, project charter is also one of the important element for this particular topic. Now during this project teams are having some responsibilities. They do conduct interview with the customers and stakeholders, they conduct research for generating more necessary information, and they prepare project feasibility document, project concept statement and project manuals. Now project planning phase, we are coming to the next. We have already completed generation phase. Now whatever is being generated, that had to be planned. When we are going to talk about the plan indicates the projected course of action or decision taking in advance what to act. The purpose of this particular phase is to determine project requirement, decide project cost and schedules, search for sources of all resources. The basic procedures of the project planning phases are defining the scope. Defining the scope means we are going to get the information to start the project. Then comes preparing the work breakdown structure. Divide the whole project into smaller activities, then leads to the role assignments, assign the different jobs to the individuals or groups for carrying out the activities. Then we are going to prepare a schedule. Project schedule determines optimum time for the project and show it in a NAT chart. Then we have to allocate the fund. Those funds are given to the different individuals' activities. Now other subsidiary process in this planning stage are risk management planning. This is one of the important element, because if we can ideally manage this one, it is going to reduce the cost and negative effect of the risk. When we talk about the risk, we all have to understand the meaning of the risk. Meaning of the risk is the effect of the result which we are not sure, the uncertainty. That uncertainty magnitude can also be understood from the rate of occurrence multiplied by the impact of that particular event, and this risk management plays important role to reduce the impact of the risk. Then comes procurement planning, decision regarding all products, services or resources needed to accomplish the project. In the planning stage, various steps are taken which are included. Now the question remains, earlier we have said process, now we are going to talk about steps. What are the difference between them? The process is sequence of phenomena and steps is systematic activities which are to be carried out to complete that particular phenomena. Now the final steps, the final techno-economic feasibility of the project. Now this is the last chance where we can take the final decision whether to change it, continue it or not to continue it. The basic engineering and the process design, here we are going to take up into the equipment specification required for the project. Division of work, responsibilities, different activities are allocated to the individuals or groups. Identify potential vendors and subcontractors. No project is complete with the help of outside experts. So we have to identify them, we have to get our work done from them. So this is the stage where we are going to do that. Detail engineering design, it deals with the specification of that particular thing, and we are going to design the equipment supplier. Detail engineering is performed and final layout is prepared and the work schedule is also prepared at this stage. Final estimation of the cost of project, if everything goes well, all those things lead us to calculate the actual requirement of the fund for implementation of this project. The decisions of capital structure and means of finance all are to be taken into account, from where we can get the fund and how much we have to take into account for completion of this particular project, and final scheduling of that implementation. And this is when we have completed all others, that leads us to start the project. That is the next phase, that is the implementation or execution phase. We have already taken this phase, requires the maximum efforts for the total stages of phases. So during this phase, project team is responsible. What are the responsibility for them? The team members perform the tasks allocated to them. Project member is responsible for performance measurement. Project manager is responsible for providing project status report to the all key stakeholders. All project key stakeholders are responsible for the review of the variances. All project key stakeholders are responsible for taking necessary action of the variances, thus determines ways to complete the project within time and cost. The basic process of the project execution can be execution of the project plan, handle the changes, project control, subsidiary processes during project execution. Now this is going to lead us to control. The quality control is performance monitoring, project administration, risk monitoring and control, scope and control, schedule and cost control, management of outside managements, that is subcontracting. The key activities during this phase of this executive includes, that is, award of contracts to contractors, vendors and subcontractors. Now this particular thing are taken into account, that we have to finalize the things are to be taken from those outsources. Then procure equipment and services. After continuously monitoring the supplies, the project team has to produce the goods and services. Then erection of the equipment, the equipments which are being purchased that are to be placed on the foundation made on for this purpose. Control and monitoring project cost, schedule and scope. Now control means the results conforms to the objectives of the project, and monitoring means regular we have to collect the information and analyze that data. That will help us to cost reduction and the time management. Motivation of the project team, this is the maximum time it is requiring, therefore we have to motivate all those team members to go for it and complete it. Then comes termination phase. During the termination phase, the project's resources are redistributed, financial records are closed and project personnel are reassigned, and finally the report is written. Now there are three ways to terminate the project. One is extension. When the project is completed, nothing is left out. The example which we can take, we have completed a house, completely finished, given to the customer, it is over. Then comes the inclusion. The equipments and human resources which are within this project are being transferred to the new division, that we call included in that particular organization. Integration, all those human resources and the equipments are merged with it, absorbed within it, and that is being called as integration. Then comes the project audit. Now, this is one of the important area, and this is to be done by the external examiner, and this is being done because the cost which is being incurred to implement it, it is there or not. Now, for that we have to ensure completion and acceptance, that is to be done by the project manager or principal investigators. He has to write the final record requiring indicating all those success and failures of that particular project. We have to make payments for the people who have done for it, and we have to assign some works to the people who are involved in it. Then classification of projects based on different criteria. When do we say classification? Why do we need classification? We need classification, reason being one particular site does not fit all. Another important thing, the activities of project management must be scaled to a size to the project, and for that we have to classify. There are two important ways to do it, the work efforts and the budget allocation. But before that we have different way to do it, was on the basis of the duration, then comes investment, then comes ownership, and then comes the classification on the basis of risk, because this is one of the way to define or classify the project. The classification is on the basis of risk are greenfield project, brownfield project, divestment project, modernization or replacement project. Now, greenfield project is a project which is the new one, and this particular new one, the IT organization is to be thought of is a clear-cut greenfield situation, because it has started from scratch, and it tells us that the particular industry is being created without the hurdles or the constraints imposed by earlier work. So, IT organization's example is the best one, which is known as a greenfield situation project. Brownfield project. Now, this brownfield project where the abundant or less utilized industry or commercial facilities are taken into for reuse. Now, this particular term was first introduced in US in 1992. Then after the dot-com bubbles of 2000s, the most of the field of this particular industries, they have looked for new forms, and these brownfield projects are again being classified into expansion project, vertical integration project, and diversification project. Expansion project is nothing but increasing the production of that particular industry. Vertical integration project, it deals with two important terms, upstream term and downstream term. These two terms are business terms in related to the product classification. Forward integration project, we all have to understand what do you mean by upstream and downstream. Upstream is searching for some raw material, like in petroleum field, searching for underground or underwater oil field, and those raw materials are being converted into process for finished good, that is a downstream. Now, forward integration project, downward expansion is called forward integrations. The product of existing industry becomes raw material for the proposed project, that is a mango pulp making industry moves to the soft drink manufacturing. Backward integration project, upstream expansion is called for backward integration. The raw material needed for the existing industry is proposed to be manufacturing by the raw product. Example, a mango pulp making industry establishing its own orchard for raw material, or soft drink company establishing mango pulp making unit. Then comes a diversification project. Diversification project takes into account the certainty in the business. They don't want to lose anything. So, there are two important synergies in it. One is financial synergy, another is management synergy. In the financial synergy, it is obtained by combining two firms, like the firm which is dealing with the cotton industries October to April, they are dealing with that. After that, the wheat flour mills, they are dealing with the seasonal periods like April to September. So, in this particular case, they are trying to increase better financial resources. Then comes management synergy. Management synergy expertise and experience are applied in different situations for their goals. Now, there are two ways of diversification. Concentric diversification project forms as related groups. Conglomerate diversification from diversification into areas that are unrelated to its current line of business. Then comes divestment project. Opposite to that is investment. We have to get rid of that particular firm which is not profitable. That we do it by obsolete of product or services, increased level of competition, strategic failure, increased concentration on fewer product lines and better opportunity for investment. All those help us to get rid of a present industries or firm. Then comes modernization and replacement project. Due to the changes in technology, all the firms have to modernize their product, and if they don't keep themselves up to date about that, they will be out of the scene. For that, they have to go for modernizing. Like for an example, a company which is dealing with the food product, a company which is applying the steam drying, they are going to have the vacuum drying for the better quality of the product and satisfaction of the customer. Another way is the replacement project, where the equipments are not working or no longer they are doing the performance. In that particular cases, both are the things are to be replaced, and there we need capital investment. In this, what we have said that if you go through the content of this course, you are going to know about the project life cycle and its phases, the project audit, and the way classifications of the projects are being made. That will help you to understand the project life cycle and its classification.